Biden flip-flops on federal COVID response, the CDC's confusing messaging, and Ghislaine Maxwell is found guilty on 5 sex trafficking charges. That and more on this week's headlines. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. Happy New Year, everyone. The beginning of a new year is the perfect time to make a change, which is what some people are saying President Biden did when he said states and not the federal government would be responsible for solving the surge in COVID cases.
Look, there is no federal solution. This gets solved at a state level.
Mr. Mandates himself is now saying there is no federal solution? So did he just give up? Looks like he's really embracing new year, new me. And all it took was having his mandates repeatedly shot down in courts. Then again, Biden initially said there would be no mandates. Then there were. So with this much flipping, forget the White House. In 2024, Biden should run for Cirque du Soleil. Biden's statement upset many on the left, as it seemed to be an about-face from Biden a year ago, saying that the federal government must have a robust, immediate response to the crisis. And passing the responsibility to the states to handle COVID surges is a move straight out of Trump's playbook, which is very upsetting to me, mainly because it means I have to update the video I made about ways Biden is acting like Trump. And that means I have to look at this thumbnail again. Meanwhile, Republicans are using that soundbite to claim that Biden has failed. Biden is constantly being criticized by both Democrats and Republicans. I'd say he's taking more heat than any president in history if it weren't for the guy who wrote the Declaration of Independence getting canceled. But this is America Uncovered. So I'm going to tell you that 5-second statement from President Biden was taken a bit out of context. Biden was responding to Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, a Republican who is the chair of the National Governors Association. This is what Hutchinson said before Biden's statement.
But we also, as governors, are getting pressure to do more, and the need is great to do more in terms of the rapid test and the availability of it. And so one word of concern or encouragement for your team is that as you look towards federal solutions that will help alleviate the challenge, make sure that we do not let federal solutions stand in the way of state solutions. And the production of 500 million rapid tests that will be distributed by the federal government is great. But obviously that dries up the supply chain for the solutions that we might offer as governor.
So Governor Hutchinson is saying federal help is great, but don't let it get in the way of what the states are doing. And then Biden said this.
They said, thank you very much. Look, there is no federal solution. This gets solved at a state level. I'm looking at Governor Sununu on the board here. He talks about that a lot. And it ultimately gets down to where the rubber meets the road, and that's where the patient is in need of help or preventing the need for help.
So in context, Biden is saying the federal government is not going to get in the way of what states are doing. Hardly a dramatic admission of failure, but that's not going to stop this 5-second clip from getting played over and over again.
Look, there is no federal solution. This gets solved at a state level.
That's what happens when everyone's attention span is now the length of a TikTok video. President Biden also later said this.
My message to the governor is simple. If you need something, say something. And we're going to have your back in any way we can.
So, Biden's providing federal support, but giving states the power and freedom to make their own choices. Wow. It's like Biden knows Democrats aren't going to do well in 2022, so his new strategy for 2024 is to run as a Republican, assuming his career doesn't take off with Cirque du Soleil. Biden does say he plans to run for re-election, but only if he's in good health, which means he's going to need to eat well, exercise, get plenty of rest, and avoid all the traps Kamala Harris left for him in the Oval Office. Biden doesn't have to worry about defense, though, as this week he signed a $770 billion defense spending bill. This bill is actually $25 billion more expensive than what Biden initially asked for. But his request was shot down by both Republicans and Democrats. And this new, more expensive bill was put in its place in order to keep up with military spending in Russia and China. That's right. Congress literally told Biden no because they thought he wasn't spending enough money on the military. This defense bill also has a provision that keeps women from being included in the draft. This provision was added by Republicans, and it left many progressives confused. Are they happy a victimized group is being protected, or are they angry because this is sexist? Only one thing is for sure, they'll definitely find a way to say it's racist. More after the break. Welcome back. The COVID Omicron variant is spreading quickly across the country. But good news. The CDC this week shortened its recommended quarantine time. For those infected with COVID-19, if they are asymptomatic after just 5 days, not 10 anymore, they can come out of quarantine. Then for 5 more days, the CDC recommends wearing a mask, which is also confusing because didn't the CDC recommend wearing a mask regardless? I don't know. COVID information is harder to keep straight than the plot to Westworld Season 3. I can't tell what's real and what's just a bunch of bots spreading chaos. The CDC said these new recommendations are based on new data that shows transmission of COVID-19 generally occurs early in the onset of the illness. Changing your mind based on new evidence is how science is supposed to work. So on the one hand, this is good. But on the other hand, the CDC needs to get better at messaging. It also needs to work on its optics, since this new shortened quarantine recommendation came just days after the CEO of Delta Airlines asked the head of the CDC to shorten the quarantine recommendation for vaccinated individuals. The Delta CEO wrote, "With the rapid spread of the Omicron variant, the 10-day isolation for those who are fully vaccinated may significantly impact our workforce and operations. Similar to healthcare, police, fire, and public transportation workforces, the Omicron surge may exacerbate shortages and create significant disruptions." So, he didn't ask them to shorten the recommended quarantine time because it's what was best for public health, but because it's what was best for business. I'm not saying this request is what caused the change, but on the surface, it looks like the CDC is following the suggestion of Delta Airlines. And it shouldn't even appear that the government's biggest scientific organization is being swayed by corporate interests, especially over COVID recommendations. And especially when that corporation has the same name as a COVID variant. It's no wonder Delta Airlines would want to shorten quarantine time, since the surge in Omicron COVID cases has caused thousands of flights to be canceled daily in the US, due in large part to staff and crew being infected. This means that many people were prevented from spending the holidays with their families, which just goes to show Omicron isn't so bad for everyone. And while we're seeing a record high number of COVID cases, hospitalizations and deaths are comparatively low for the moment. That's a good sign. Although that was reported by the CDC, so I'm surprised that sign doesn't look like this. Dr. Anthony Fauci suggested that one way to potentially help these travel woes is by considering a vaccine mandate for domestic air travel. He said, when you make vaccinations a requirement, that's another incentive to get more people vaccinated. If you want to do that with domestic flights, I think that's something that seriously should be considered. Yes, because as we've seen, mandates make unwilling people happily comply. Mandates definitely don't make them, get arrested for storming a Burger King. That's ridiculous for multiple reasons. 1. COVID is the least of your health concerns when you're at Burger King. 2. Why would anyone want to get arrested for Burger King? Is your freedom really worth overcooked mozzarella sticks that don't have any actual mozzarella in them? 3rd, and most obviously, Burger King is a monarchy. His mandates are law and can't be contested. If you want liberty, go to McDonald's. It's run by a total clown show. Fauci later clarified that he doesn't think a vaccine mandate will be implemented for domestic air travel, saying, I doubt if we're going to see something like that in the reasonably foreseeable future. And CDC Director Rochelle Walensky confirmed that domestic air travel vaccine mandates aren't being considered by the organization. So here's my question. Why would you even suggest it, Fauci? This is like saying we could solve the obesity epidemic by going to war with the Burger Kingdom. If we're not going to do it, why even bring it up? Unless, of course, you're trying to justify the military budget. So no, the CDC won't try to implement a vaccine mandate for domestic air travel. Unless, of course, Delta Airlines asks them to. And after the break, Jeffrey Epstein's longtime partner has been found guilty of sex trafficking. Welcome back. New York City subways will face delays due to a surge in Omicron COVID cases. The Metropolitan Transportation Authority, or MTA, said, like everyone in New York, we've been affected by the COVID surge. We're taking proactive steps to provide the best, most consistent service we can. That means you may wait a little longer for your train. Omicron causing subways in New York City to be delayed is at least a nice change of pace from the usual reason subways are delayed. No reason whatsoever. Speaking of people being transported, Ghislaine Maxwell will be going to prison. She was found guilty on 5 of the 6 sex trafficking charges she faced for recruiting teenage girls to be abused by Jeffrey Epstein. Maxwell will be sentenced later this year. Some of these charges she was convicted on have a minimum 10-year sentence, so she could spend the rest of her life in prison. And by rest of her life, I of course mean about 2 weeks, when she mysteriously dies from contracting Omicron. Hey, did you know one symptom of Omicron is suicide by hanging? No wonder people are panicking over this new strain. Let me just be the first to say, Ghislaine Maxwell didn't kill herself. That last story was a bit heavy. Let's move on to a lighter topic. Abortion. The Vermont House of Representatives will soon debate on an amendment that will add abortion as a right in the state's constitution. With the Supreme Court decision expected in mid-2022 that could drastically affect Roe v. Wade, many blue states may soon adopt laws guaranteeing abortion as a right, and many red states may do the opposite. Kansas placed a proposed amendment on its August 2022 primary ballot to overturn a 2019 Kansas State Supreme Court decision that guaranteed abortion as a right. This is a complex, controversial issue with several moving parts. What do you think about it, Mr. President?
Look, there is no federal solution. This gets solved at a state level.
Should have seen that coming. A person's view on abortion are often influenced by their spiritual faith. And now, there's an app for that. While attendance at church has been affected by a decline in faith over the decades and churches being closed during the pandemic, religious apps made $175 million in 2021. What a great idea! Now you can lust over Instagram models and seek forgiveness for lusting over Instagram models, all on the same device. Hashtag blessed indeed. Although I'm not sure these apps are such a great idea for Catholics. It's bad enough your data is being harvested for things that you share on social media. Do you really want advertisers collecting info from your confessionals? Thank God that God doesn't do targeted marketing. Speaking of people who need to say their prayers, the Democratic National Committee. 3 more Democrats in the House of Representatives announced they plan to retire at the end of 2022. This brings the number of House Democrats either retiring or not running in next year's midterms to 23. And Republicans only need a net gain of 5 seats in order to regain the majority in the House. So, if I'm doing my math right, a 435-member chamber minus 23 Democrats plus 5 Republicans equals an absolute shellacking. Approval ratings for President Biden and other Democrats are already plummeting, and they'll likely continue to fall in 2022 since gas prices are expected to rise. Forget polls. All you need to determine the approval ratings of politicians is the price of gas. Okay, as I've said before, rising gas prices aren't necessarily Democrats' fault. There are much larger, complex causes. But if I've learned anything in 2021, it's that facts don't matter. So if Democrats are going to survive the 2022 midterms, they're going to need to present a unified front with strong policy, effective messaging, and powerful leadership from the top of their party.
Look, there is no federal solution. This gets solved at a state level.
Yeah, it's going to be a bloodbath. So, what do you think about the stories we covered this week? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, America Uncovered is supported mainly by viewers. Be sure to visit patreon.com/AmericaUncovered. Contribute $1 or more per episode. We rely on your support to help us keep making great episodes. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.